I want to introduce you again to Claire Lopez. She's a former CIA officer, and she has been following this story from the very beginning. And I can't thank you enough for telling the truth on what's happening there. And we're still trying to piece things together. We don't have all of the answers, but something is very, very, very wrong. Would you agree?
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah. The chalkboard that I just did a minute ago, you said you wouldn't, if you were to do that, you wouldn't add Hezbollah to that.
Well, as best as I know, Hezbollah was not part of the opposition to Gaddafi.
Okay.
Certainly Al-Qaeda-linked organizations were. Certainly all kinds of other jihadist groups were.
And the brokering of the guns with Chris Stevens, the ambassador, you convinced that's accurate?
I do think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're doing it now in Syria through the Muslim Brotherhood?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what it looks like.
Can you give me any kind of context of how big this scandal really is? I mean, that's huge.
Well, it's huge, first of all, because we've got 4 dead Americans. That's the worst part of it all, and that nobody went to their assistance.
But well, I'm going to come back to that. But it's worse than just the 4 dead Americans, because I can't, for the life of me, and you've been doing this a lot longer than I have, you're smarter than me in this, I can't see a reason we would do this. There's you know, to why? Why would we be giving arms to really, really, really bad guys?
It's beyond me to understand, but here's how the reasoning might go. There are good jihadis and there are bad jihadis.
You believe that?
No, of course not. Okay. Jihadis are those who want to
kill the infidel,
bring back the caliphate, kill the infidel, enforce Sharia law. But this might be how the thinking goes. Al-Qaeda is blowing things up and wants to kill us all right now. The Muslim Brotherhood, on the other hand, at least in the United States, where it is deeply infiltrated, is not immediately violent. Now, why we would help Al-Qaeda to overthrow Gaddafi is less understandable. But certainly the ideology, the philosophy of our current administration right now to empower the Muslim Brotherhood to come to power in places like Egypt, like Tunisia, and maybe now like Syria, that might be the thinking there. But that doesn't answer the question, as you point out, why were we helping Al-Qaeda jihadists or with jihadist links in Libya in the first place?
How does this end? If it's not stopped, how does this end? Because, I mean, Jordan falls, don't they?
Jordan is certainly all right now. They will be next. Saudi Arabia is targeted. And, of course, all of it surrounds Israel.
I mean, let's just be selfish here for a second before we get to Israel. If Saudi Arabia falls, our gas prices are, you know, God only knows, $20. I mean, it could be even more than that, because they're not going to, jihadists are not going to pump oil for us. So there's no good news there. The king of Jordan is probably one of the only decent guys left in the region, isn't he?
He's been our ally,
right.
and as his father was before him for many, many decades.
We've just sent troops into Jordan. Most Americans don't even know we did that. There was a struggle with Jordan and the Muslim Brotherhood, and the Muslim Brotherhood said, we're going to overthrow you unless you disband the government, so we disband the government. Are we over there because the Brotherhood asked us to be over there? Are we over there, do you think, because the king asked us to be over there?
I would hope we're there to buttress King Abdullah. That's what I would hope. And in so doing, bring stability to a region in which our #1 ally, Israel, is under direct threat.
But we are destabilizing it every place else. That's the inconsistent point. Going over to help Jordan is the inconsistent part.
Yeah,
right?
It is. It absolutely is. You're right.
Romney has to bring this up tonight. Most Americans, because the media really hasn't done this. I mean, Fox hasn't even done all this stuff. And this is verifiable stuff. Yeah. How does he explain this tonight? What would you say if you were Mitt Romney?
Well, I think the first thing that he has to do is to explain that the story Americans have been getting about what happened in Libya, and specifically in Benghazi on September the 11th, is not the whole story. And that what went on in Benghazi on September 11th had its roots much further back. The reason, as you were pointing out in your earlier segment, why was Ambassador Stevens there? What was his role during the revolt against Gaddafi? Well, it was to act as liaison, official United States government liaison to al-Qaeda-linked jihadist militias. And they would include some of the same people now that are working to overthrow Assad in Syria.
Okay. When we come back, I want to talk to you a little bit about Mitt Romney and what you may or may not know about Mitt Romney and his policy. Is he going to reverse this? How do you reverse this if you wanted to reverse this? Because it's all institutionalized. And the media's role in all of this. Back in just a second.